So long as it doesn't say disconnected.
Where would it say disconnected? Where?
You would just see a little notice pop up.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep, that's my director's vision right there. She's like, really? You're in financial aid? Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. What a great room. Look at all these beautiful people. I love it. How many of you have already signed up to be a volunteer for TASVA and perhaps signed up to run for one of the offices at TASVA? Let me see your hands. I have two brave souls here. Who else? Carolyn's coming back. Who else? I saw one back there. Good. I need more hands on this side, guys. Come on. My name is Sandy Holt, and I am one of your past presidents. This was the job that I really ran for, so it's kind of fun to be on this side of the house now. I am sad to say that I'm not in financial aid anymore, but I work for the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities as their Chief Development and Marketing Officer, and I still indirectly get to help your students from your colleges and universities. We have great programs and scholarships and internship opportunities and training opportunities for them. So I'm not on the campus all the time, but I appreciate everything that you've done because I've probably done it like you as well. But you're in for a treat. We're going to be talking about meeting students where they are, social media and financial aid. And what's really great that I just learned right now is that the financial aid office at Houston Community College created a new position within their office, and they have a social media and communications coordinator, and that is Shar-day Campbell. And so is that cool? Like, how many of us have that position within our offices? So we need to make sure that we talk to the director and see how each of your offices can work toward getting a position like that within your office, because communication is so important, and we know now with social media they want it instantaneously, and I'm hoping to learn from this session as well. So before she gets started, I wanted to make some announcements that were given to me, and so right after this, we're going to have a beverage break with the TASVA birthday cake. So they're not going to do it at the party tonight, but it's going to be during your beverage break at 4 p.m. upstairs, okay? And then the dinner will begin promptly at 6 p.m. And then the real party begins at 7 when we can dance on that dance floor. I hope my legs still remember how to do that. So when you're an old timer, I'm number 27, and we're already in the 50th of the president, so that's kind of old, right? L'Oreal. Anyway, so with no further ado, let's take it away, and you guys give her a big round of applause.
happy to be here. It is my distinct pleasure, and to give a specific shout out to my executive director, Joellen Sorcier, who had the vision to create my position and keep me gainfully employed. So, I'm also had the pleasure of having my mom here to see me. The pageant wave was not expected. She's stepping out of her comfort zone. I said, Mom, can you live stream this for me? She was like, I just kind of turned. So I'm going to kick this off. Just to give you a little bit of what to expect, we're going to do an icebreaker with a little bit of Twitter humor, talk about the opportunities for financial aid on social media, and talk about what has worked for us at Houston Community College. So a little bit about myself. As introduced, I'm the Financial Aid Communications and Social Media Coordinator. When Joellen created that, I don't think she thought about how long that title was. It's a long one. I've been doing communications and events for about 10 years. So this is my profession. She had the vision to hire somebody without a financial aid background, but with a communications background, and then I kind of got baptized by fire. And, I learned financial aid within a year and a half that I've been here. I'm no expert, but I am a certified social media expert, new to financial aid, and feeling really blessed to, for my own personal home, to make it through Harvey. But financial aid is holding on by a string. It's been really interesting, so I'm definitely going to touch on kind of how, what we saw on social media during the storm. So anybody seen Jimmy Kimball's mean tweets? So this is the financial aid edition. They exist. I want to take a play off of what he does and have financial aid professionals read mean tweets about financial aid. So if we make eye contact, I just may ask you to read it, okay? So we got the first one, just to give you a little insight. This is the tweet. These are real tweets. I pulled it based on geographical data of tweets about financial aid in Texas. I use fake usernames, however, to protect the guilty. So I'll have you read the username and then read the tweet. Who wants to take that brave step and go first? There you go.
At Angry Student 17, there is a gun to your head and you have one phone call. If they answer, you die. If they don't answer, you live. Who are you going to call? Financially.
I was like, maybe I'll throw some new ones in there, but that's a classic. That never gets old. Somebody want to read this short one with the username? You got it.
At I want my money now 18. Waiting for my financial aid refund like
Sound effects, I love it. All right.
At Pick Up Yo Phone 22. Good one. When you visit the financial aid office and they're not doing anything but lollygagging around, but when you call, they don't answer.
So, because we lollygag, right?
Yeah.
And at first I was like, lollygagging is an old word. I thought it was like an older student. No, she was. When I looked at her picture, she was like 20. I was like, she must have raised by grandmama or something. We don't really say lollygagging. And the last one, you got to read it with aggression too, whoever's going to do this. All right.
Somebody call security. Financial aid office about to catch those hands, man.
I love it. Perfect read. So do we see a pattern in these tweets?
Negative phone calls.
Phone calls. They expect us to be there to pick up the phone, right?
How dare they?
I know. But it goes back to what she alluded to. They really do expect an immediate response. Technology has conditioned them this way. planted seeds of entitlement in other areas of their lives. But yeah, they really do expect on-demand communication. And social media offers a different platform for them to get that answer. So, knowing that they're out there talking bad about us, do you consider it a deterrent or opportunity to get on social media?
Opportunity.
Okay, why?
Inform.
To inform? Okay.
Meet them where they're at.
Mm-hmm. Huh?
Be on board with them.
Right. They're already having these conversations. We need to be a part of the conversation. So let's take a look at some other things. So we have some challenges, but not deterrents. Of course, FERPA is an issue. Never even knew what that was when I started. But there are easy ways to get around it. Whatever protocol you have to verify that the student is who they are over the phone, the same goes with social media. Most of the time when they're asking specifics about their account, I take it to a direct message or inbox message via their social media platform. So they'll start off and I'll tweet them and say, hey, check your DM. So then I'll ask them for their ID number and then we'll go from there. So FERPA is not that much of a challenge. Communicating things that drive calls. I don't want to put anything out there that causes more calls. My goal is to try to decrease calls. So if I know what I am going to put out there is not going to solve what is driving calls already, I'm not going to say anything about it. A lack of resources to post and respond consistently and timely. That's a big thing when you don't have somebody dedicated. But even in my position, I started off, I don't have PeopleSoft access. Even if I do have it, I don't understand it yet. So I rely on subject matter experts within the department to tell me what's going on with the student's account. And I rely on partnerships internally to help me create video, to help me get things posted on different platforms that I may not have access to. So we're going to talk about aligning yourself with institutional partners to when you don't have the buy-in to get the position. Not having a repository of graphics. I am video creator, graphic creator, meme creator, website updater, so flyer maker. So you got to have something to put out there, and image is key. So not having access to those graphics can be a challenge. De-escalating dissatisfied students publicly. It's one thing when it's one-on-one and there's not a digital log of the conversations that may not go the greatest. So it really takes tact when you're answering. Tact and a little bit of skill to answer with tact in 160 characters when you're on Twitter. Building a following if you're going to create your own social media page for financial aid. I didn't do that. The institution already has its own social media pages. They already have a following. I'm going to use the following that they already have because it's a lot to say, hey, come over here. We're talking about financial aid. It's really interesting. They're already on the institution's social media page. So what I did was, and I'll tell you all, I worked with communications to make sure that I can post in a way it doesn't interfere with any of the campaigns that they already have going on. So why use social? Again, we improve student outcomes by meeting them where they are. The whole conversation of asking them to come to you is not going to work. Decreasing lines and phone calls by providing timely communication about meaningful topics. Err on the side of caution. When my position was created and I got on social media, the calls did not stop. But the goal is to give them another platform. But I did see the timeliness of the communication help during the storm. They turned to social media to get their questions answered because frankly they couldn't get through the call center. We had so many calls coming in, and that it goes to using social media as an extension of your customer service arm. So we got the phones, we have a live chat, we have email, we have the website. This is just another extension of your customer service arm, and you have to be intentional about making it a priority to treat it as such. Closing the learning gap about financial aid and financial literacy. I think that's one of the biggest goals. is when you shepherd them through the process on a platform that they want to have a conversation on, it helps them to understand kind of what are those next steps and the challenges that they're having. They're already having those conversations on social media. It's just that they're not giving each other the best advice. So it helps mitigate erroneous peer-to-peer information shared about the financial aid process, and just improves reputation and responsiveness. I think, you know, all of us have a heart. That's the only way you're going to stay in financial aid. But there isn't a face. There are very few efforts to humanize us as a department that are generally targeted as the enemy until loans hit. So it helps humanize the department, and I'll show you how. So look at what we're doing. About HCC. HCC is a massive institution. We award more associate degrees to all minorities than any other two-year college in the nation. We're #1 community college for international enrollment. Last year we were ranked #3 best colleges for federal work study. Our financial literacy efforts were recognized by the White House and the U.S. Department of Education in the Student Debt Challenge Toolkit. We have 14 offices, which is about 17% of HCC's locations. 72%, excuse me. We have a centralized financial aid call center and a 20-person processing center. So a large operation. And this is something that I kind of used to hone my efforts on what I was going to focus on when I got on social media. And it's financial aid's commitment. HCC's financial aid team will be a service-oriented, responsive department committed to removing financial barriers that inhibit student success and completion of workforce and academic programs. We will continuously forge community, civic, and interdepartmental partnerships that educate students and stakeholders about the best practices to pay for education. This really drives what type of content I create. So our situation when I got there in July 2016, we had a robust automated PeopleSoft communications plan that's based off of triggers. So if this happens, X student gets this communication. We got a partnership with, and still do, with Financial Aid TV, which is basically a vendor that allows you to have a repository of videos about financial aid. They're here today. Stop by their table. We had high call volumes, low web traffic. So when we say, you know, we sent this and we posted on the website, the numbers are telling us that they're not reading it. But that's also due to some navigation challenges that we're having on the website that's going through a redesign. The department didn't really have a strong connection to our communications and social media team, so I had to forge that partnership. There wasn't anyone dedicated to creating financial aid content. There were no resolutions when students would voice their concerns on financial aid. They would just get driven to the call center when they would talk about financial aid on social media. And we weren't tracking or monitoring mentions of financial aid on social media. So that's where we stood. So my action plan when I came in, Joellen already took care of this. She generated buy-in from leadership. Said, look, this position and what we need to do is going to create value. I came in and I had to assess, gear up and plan, execute, listen, measure, and analyze, but most of all, adjust. So during my assessment, I had to review social media policies that I had to work within for HCC and the guidelines. That's key. When you're going to go create a partnership, you need to understand what's already in place to have those conversations. I evaluated HCC's platforms, the voice in which they talk to students. Are they using a very corporate undertone? Does your school leverage humor a lot on social media? What type of content are they posting so that I can leverage that same voice? And I benchmarked what others are doing. I looked at other schools, and what I found there are only a few that have separate financial aid social media accounts. So I was really starting from ground zero. I didn't really have much to benchmark. And those who did create their separate accounts on social media, the financial aid departments, there wasn't a lot of engagement. So during that benchmark, I also found sources of content. Sometimes you don't always have to create content. And I'll let you know that the Department of Education their social media is really robust. Like, I rely on it heavily for especially FAFSA education. When early FAFSA launched, it was so many images, resources, videos that I can already use and we have permission to use. I had one-on-one meetings with everybody in our college, which was about 100 people, to understand what are the questions students keep asking. Because that right there, that's the sweet spot. That's where I know there's a learning curve. That's where I know there's a gap. And just having those candid conversations with people who have been doing this on the front line for years, I wanted to understand what they felt like a breakdown in communication was. Anytime there was a spike in calls, I started logging it. I wanted to understand what happens in August that drives calls, what happens in October, what happens in November. My content should align with what's driving calls. It may not solve the call problem, but at least my content is aligning with the students' concerns during that specific time. Definitely had to review our financial aid communications plan, our PeopleSoft plan, and identify, this was my biggest thing. I had to identify what information could be shared and what can't be said about financial aid. I speak in absolutes, and financial aid is like, no. It depends. Maybe. You might. We're trying. We never want to just guarantee, because they will hold you to the fire. So that was my biggest learning curve. It's like, okay, so what can I say? So when I started planning, going back to that mission statement that I said I rely on, I want our efforts to align with the institution's vision and goal. The institution has already said they want to be responsive. All right? How are we being responsive? Are we leveraging all the tools to be responsive? So when I set goals and you're trying to generate buy-in from leadership, they already have goals based on the institution's goals. So when you go in and try to get buy-in, and you say, hey, I think it'd be great that financial aid to be on social media. You know, students aren't listening on the website. Maybe they'll listen to us on social media. No, or you can go in and say, listen, we've committed ourselves to being responsive. We've committed ourselves to making partnerships to make sure that we're closing the learning gaps for the process to pay for school. It's how you frame those conversations. And that means that you need to understand, one, what are your institution's goals? You know, those convocations that you kind of go to and scroll on your phone? Pay attention. They're telling you how to talk to them when you go have those high-level conversations. Choosing a platform and frequency, again, as I said, I opted to leverage the social media page of the institution as opposed to creating my own. And I decided, one, because of the learning curve, two, because I'm only one person, I said I'm going to start a weekly financial aid series. And I called it Financial Aid, hashtag Financial Aid Fridays. And I committed to, I was like, I'm going to post every Friday. I selected the voice and tone of financial aid posts. I wanted them to be timely, helpful, conversational, and relevant with the touch of humor. I pushed the touch of humor a little bit, and I'll show y'all how. Identify content resources. So we have financial coaches that push financial literacy, all of their events and things that I can post on social media. Because sometimes it's like, okay, we're on social media, so what are we supposed to talk about? The events, the call drivers, again, the resources from the Department of Ed, Financial Aid TV, viral content. If something has already went viral, I just make it about financial aid. And what I found is that students really get a kick out of it. And most institutions, our communications team has a repository of photos that I can use for memes. So I know we have our mascot. The mascot is scrolling on an iPad. I'll make it about FAFSA. Great, our mascot is doing a FAFSA. But what repository of images can you leverage already that's created to make it about financial aid? And yeah. So the next thing I had to do when I was gearing up to get on social media was to form those partnerships with HGC Communications. The fact that I have a communications background fully, they trusted me enough to give me access to the social media platform. So it wasn't like I have to go get approval, post this, because I don't know if you have the background to post, because it's just not your background, to post on social media without things being approved. Launch social media ambassador team. They help identify social media opportunities. They'll tell me, hey, Shar-day, I think we really need to put this on social media. They participate in videos. Trust me, if anybody works in the call center, they'll do anything not to work on the phone. So whenever I give them the opportunity to do videos, they're like, yes, pick me. They also serve as subject matter experts when I need to respond on social media and don't understand the process and what steps the students need to take. And created content for financial literacy efforts in a SAP video series. So that was me gearing up. So execution. Again, the weekly financial aid series. I do it on Facebook, Twitter. The only social media platform that I don't have direct access to is Instagram, because the communications department keeps those passwords. They don't let everyone have those passwords. The other two platforms I don't have to have a password to get access to, but since I have to, because Instagram is a mobile app, I have to go through them to post it. It's not a big hassle, it's just a slight deterrent. My execution included, I was going to talk about something, but hey, wait, something went viral. Let me use this image to talk about the same thing. And again, I treated social as an extension of our customer service arm, and I'm committed to responding to all social media inquiries within 24 hours. So, biggest thing is, the secret to getting ahead is getting started. I decided I'm going to start once a week. I'm going to commit to it, and we're going to make this work. So the top 6 posts that do well. Again, the viral trends repurposed for financial aid. Humor. Students really turn to social media during a crisis. And I knew that already, but I saw it during Harvey. There was a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of concern, and students were relying on financial aid more than they ever did before. So they wanted answers to their questions so that they could plan financially. And that was even before school had started. I went in before school even went back to answer their questions. Because it's like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for school. Is my financial aid ready? What about my payment plans? Scholarship opportunities do really well on social media. Simple step-by-step tips and reminders, and financial literacy events with really relatable content. So viral trends. Not sure if you're able to see this, but that's Kermit. 2 Kermits. It's Evil Kermit and Good Kermit. Kermit just really keeps going viral. I don't know who his PR team is, but he keeps doing it. So I woke up and this was everywhere. And people were just making it about everything. So this is Good Kermit and Bad Kermit. And I said, I'm going to make this about early FAFSA. I said, you can apply, the Good Kermit says, you can apply for fall 2017 financial aid 3 months earlier now. And the Bad Kermit told him, no, wait until a week before school starts, like next August. We know that's what they're going to do anyway. And then, so the caption was, don't listen to Evil Kermit, get a jump start on 17-18 FAFSA. And that was part of the financial aid series. It was the highest performing non-sponsored post on social media platforms that students start tagging their friends. That means that they're interested in the content. They went beyond liking to actually using the little ha-ha-ha emoji. So they enjoyed it. Be realistic in the goals. Financial aid is not going to go viral. Okay? Just not. Most of the time, you have to be okay with it just throwing something out there and there's crickets. But there are a couple metrics that I'm really interested in. 2,641 people saw this. Just because people don't react doesn't mean they didn't see it. I mean, I scroll over things that I don't react to all day, but I did see it. Just traditionally, this is a post. When I look at, we have 62 reaction and comments. That's something that does really well on our social media based off of the other posts. And let me see. I think that's what I want to share. So recently, there was a social media challenge that went viral. Let me try to say this the best way to be gainfully employed. It was called For the D, all lewdness attached. So basically what people were doing was were rapping over the same beat about what they would do for that. So I flipped it and I said, you know what? Let's make it for that degree. Let's talk about what we're going to do for that degree. Let's make this positive. So, again, leveraging resources. I went to our in-studio television department and they were like, look, we're swamped. I can't help you. Viral trends aren't going to last forever. I had to hop on it. One of our financial coaches, her dad had a studio at her house. I said, look, I need to come record a song. Never rapped a day in my life. Went to her house on a weekend, wrote the lyrics, recorded the song. Then I downloaded an app that lets you play the song and record at the same time. Got a student to follow me around campus, and this was the result. This is Shar-day with Houston Community College's Financial Aid Department. There are a lot of social media challenges going around about the letter B. But this is HCC Financial Aid Challenge for that degree. Let's go. But like my professor early for that degree. Hey, low key in debt for that degree. My financial coach set up a plan for me to pay back my loans for that degree. Scholarships for that degree. Work 2 jobs for that degree, right? Got work study for that degree. Buy my books for that degree. Pull all nighters for that degree. All in the lab for that degree. Hey, professor, you think that maybe I can get some extra points for that degree? Geeked up for that degree. Hey. At HCC, we out. So, actually our communications team was like, I don't know, I've heard of that challenge. I don't know if I really want to post that. And I was like, look, it's going to be great. We got to do this. I didn't really give her an option. I was like, the song's already recorded. It wasn't like a concept anymore. We're going to drop this and it was going to be fire. So, it's probably at 9,000 views, which is really uncharacteristic of videos. But what really shocked me was that students start professing their love for HCC. And I was like, we love HCC. This is my school. It was a sense of school pride that came out of the humor. I was concerned about dropping the video because we hadn't dropped loans since we were on a delay since Harvey. I was like, I just know it's going to be those students like, oh, you got time to dance, but I can't get but I couldn't take that risk because the viralness of the challenge would have already left. I was like, all right, let's take good intentions and hope for the best. One student said, I will dance when I get my disbursement. And another student came back and was like, you never really get your disbursement until 30 days after the first day of class. I was like, I didn't even have to say anything. So it turned out really well, and it's because the intentions weren't to push information to them. I mean, essentially in that I promoted my financial coaches about helping with loans and making responsible borrowing. I talked about early FAFSA, scholarships, work study, but it was in an engaging way. So, humor during a crisis. We had to, in order to respond to the demand to disperse aid early during after Harvey, we had to do a manual enrollment process. We have 40,000 students on aid. It was rough. So the students had to go around to their professors and ask them to sign this sheet to say, hey, I have attended the first day of class. First day of class was on Monday. Students start getting signatures for classes that hadn't started on Friday. How you gonna verify attendance if you haven't attended? I said, so how can I convey that this is just completely absurd? So I put financial aid, Hurricane Harvey update with a picture of a chair. The caption was, you must attend class, sit in a chair before submitting requests for early aid. And they got a kick out of it. One student was like, dang, HCC 1, student 0. But But they got the hint though, like you can't do this. So students were tagging their friends, they want beyond liking them to share the status, use the emotion reactions. I could have just said, hey, you can't submit your form until you've actually attended classes, but I said the same thing in a different way, and it turned out well. Gave them a laugh, even in hard times. So simple step-by-step tips. One thing, we have how many undone to-do list items in PeopleSoft all the time. Before we went to break, holiday break, this was just a reminder. I didn't have to tell them, hey, you need to check your financial aid to-do list, blah, blah, blah. I asked the question to create a sense of urgency, like, maybe I should be checking my to-do list. And that goes back to the image. This is an image that our college has in their repository of images, and I just made it about financial aid. To give some insight, Twitter insight, so to the video, loved it on Facebook. Twitter, crickets. But simply because that's just not our largest platform. So you need to understand the engagement in between different platforms to kind of understand the difference in the reaction. So about impressions mean that about 3,000 students saw it. Engagement means that we had about 65 engagement. Either they clicked on a link, they clicked on a hashtag, they clicked on a picture to make it bigger so they can see the message. And that's part of our Financial Aid Friday series. So, anybody got time check? What time is it?
You're doing good. You still have about 25
Okay, great. So, I've been talking about making things that are viral about financial aid. I didn't script this larger room. So, what I'm going to do is just some group participation. These are memes that we've seen everywhere go viral. Does anybody remember Salt Bay?
Yeah.
I made that about financial aid. I said, what did I put? I was like, that feeling when you finish your financial aid to-do list. So, anybody want to take a shot at using any of these photos and making it a short little message about financial aid? Go.
I'll take the Willy Wonka one with Shar-day.
The Willy Wonka one?
So, tell me why you didn't eat South again.
I love this. I love it. Context, everything, short message, you nailed it. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? I mean, y'all can follow up. It may not be that one. You were like, that's perfect. Y'all are good. But y'all understand, basically, when y'all see something happen, let's see how we can give it that spin on financial aid. So handling negative feedback. This was a message I got on Facebook's private message. Basically, a potential student who was coming back, she had already went to HCC. She was trying to get some information for her husband who had lost his job in oil and gas and was trying to re-enter the market. This is an older lady, completely unfamiliar with the process and easily frazzled. She immediately began publicly bashing HCC, declared that she nor her family would ever attend again. Those commenting on her Facebook thread started encouraging her to go to other schools. And in addition, it was a public post. And then after she posted it publicly on her profile, she messaged HCC's inbox. So this is what she said. Let me take a deep breath. Because you know when they're mad, they have a lot of breath. Dear person at the financial aid office at HCC, when I say I need to ask a question, it's usually proper to allow me to ask what I need to know rather than interrupt and start with, do you have a Vorpal form on file? All I needed to know was whether or not you can qualify for financial aid at a community college if you already have a bachelor's degree. That doesn't require a Vorpal file to answer that. And you sounded like you were talking with marbles in your mouth when you were speaking, which is why the word Vorpal file has no meaning to me anyway. Just listen to the caller before jumping to conclusions. You might get this question a million times a day, but your caller calls once, and the way you assume things annoys them and might keep them from attending your school. You have one job, sell your school. You failed today. Even if we could get the financial aid, I would not be going to your school due to your attitude. And yes, your attitude counts when you work with the public. Sorry, yes, I'm annoyed. Lord, I hope her essays are this good if she goes to school. So quick action. Immediately after reading the message I got with my social media ambassador team, I tried to figure out who did she talk to in the call center? What made her this angry? But I couldn't find that out. I needed to identify what could be done. It was later discovered that she was calling on behalf of her husband. And we say things all the time and don't think about it. Like, oh, do you have a FERPA form? Like, it's no connection to students. I don't even think they hear the word FERPA. Clearly by what she said. But the background of what drives their anger is really important here too. She was frustrated. They're in a financial bind. They're trying to go back to school. I'm older. I don't understand the process. You never know what's behind the aggression. So my response to her was, I'm sorry that our call center representative cut you off. I think what you may have heard is that she was asking for a FERPA form. I can't be certain. Either way, I agree that you should be able to get your question out without being interrupted. I couldn't fully investigate your call because I'm not certain whether your Facebook name matches your name in our system. That's another challenge that I have. They'll tweet me at HotMamba22. And I'm like, so what's your ID number? I can't do it. I've seen some bad Twitter names too. And so I said, however, based on your original Facebook post, I do know that you're an HCC alumna. On behalf of the Financial Aid Department, I'm petitioning you to not let one experience discourage you from returning. Will you please confirm your name, best contact info, what you want to go back to school for, and when you're available for one of our senior reps to give you a full rundown of options. Also, please feel free to share how else we can have HCC be considered as your top option to continue your education here. Massive de-escalation. What do y'all think about my response?
Very professional.
How would y'all have responded?
Depends.
Huh?
It depends.
You said depends. Like what number of an angry student that was?
Well, I think it depends on where the person's coming from. I mean, if that person is just soured to the point of sour, they're going to see that response as, you're just trying to save face and you're just trying to kiss up to me and, go blow it out to you know what, because I really don't care anymore. Or they may, see that this is a legitimate, honest, hey, we screwed up, we want to make it right.
Right.
How can we make it right?
I think that ending comment, though, the one that's like, feel free to keep sharing how we can improve, is the kind of opener of, we didn't just do this, although maybe we did. We didn't just do this so that you would stop posting really mean things and tagging us in it. If you want to do that, you can, and we appreciate your feedback.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good open way to do that without, stepping on toes.
Yeah. I didn't even realize I had done that in that, so thank you.
It was timely also and quick. You got to it really quickly, and I think she would have appreciated that.
That was a major key.
But my concern is we use acronyms all the time, and she did not know what FERPA was. Obviously, she didn't hear it properly. We probably should not use acronyms on the onset when we're talking to someone, because we have to assume that they don't know what the acronyms are.
We have to assume that they don't know what the acronyms are, that they legitimately don't know the next step in the process. And once you adopt that attitude, it'll allow you to understand what really needs to be communicated. So, negative feedback is not always a bad thing. It's an opportunity. The situation was quickly de-escalated, and the caller noted that she appreciated that someone got back with her. I think sometimes when they post on social media, they don't really expect anything. Without prompting, she edited her Facebook post to let her friends know that HCC is working with her to get the problem solved. Couldn't have asked for a better outcome. And honestly, our continuing education financial aid is handled totally different and by a different person. She wasn't even talking to the right person. She was mad and not even talking to the right person. Got her in contact with the right person. I followed up 3 or 4 times with that contact to make sure that it's resolved. That's big. I can't just hand you off and then expect you to stop talking badly about us. I need to make sure that the issue is really resolved. She said, thank you. I amended my post on my wall to tell folks that you did contact me for working it out. I really appreciate the care you've taken with this. Thank you so very much. So our results since hopping on social media in 2016 in July, what we did well, we secured executive buy-in. We hired a full-time social media coordinator with a communications background. It would be my advice to hire somebody with a communications background and understanding, not someone that's in financial aid that says, hey, I have a social media account. But someone that the communications department can really trust as an ally when they need to get the word out, and that's someone that they don't have to manage. Make their jobs easier. What we did well was establish strong partnerships with the communications department. We tapped into an established and already engaged audience by not creating our own separate financial aid social media page. We created an expectation of when to hear from financial aid by doing a weekly series. You know, every Friday you can expect to hear from financial aid. We weren't not afraid to experiment with original content that leveraged viral trends, and the responsiveness is what I've, even though Harvey really tested my commitment, replied to 100% of direct inquiries and concerns in less than 12 hours. What we saw during Harvey was I would answer one student and the next student would come in and ask me the exact same thing. Jesus. Let me just copy and paste this. I literally had a repository of answers that were already ready to just go like bloop, bloop, bloop. But they want to know that, is this true for me? Mm-hmm. We like to think that we'll be able to post students will get in and nobody will have any questions, but really, just like when they call in, they want to know that it's true for them. So, how did we win? The weekly Financial Aid Friday series is consistently one of the top 5 most engaging posts on HCC social channels. So we talk about forging a partnership with communications. I think people think communications has all of this content and we're really not going to have any room for financial aid. Now they're literally sitting in meetings like, man, who's going to give us content? Boom, financial aid has somebody. They're going to provide us with content, and I know when they're going to post, and it's not going to interrupt what we're already posting. Because we had gotten that partnership with communications, they had a live tweet set up with a local ABC affiliate to drive enrollment, and financial aid was invited to the table. So when you start opening those doors of communications, different opportunities start happening. I created a student loan debt challenge video series. On the one on public service loan forgiveness is the number 2 most viewed video on HCC's YouTube, and it won a Telly Award, which they give awards based on the best in digital and video content. So I was really excited about that. Financial aid, so the communications department was already, they had, instead of Game of Thrones, they had a Game of Tuition series. And they came to us and they were like, well, how can we make this about financial aid? Because those lines of communication were already open. And we did it on Early FAFSA. I mean, they really get into it, y'all. It's like aerial angles, costumes, accents. And I honestly, I had to have somebody else read the script because I don't even watch Game of Thrones. So what's next for opportunity purposes? I want to do more on analytics and anecdotes. I don't want to just look at the numbers. I want to look at those responses when students really are de-escalated, their problems got resolved, they appreciate the content, they appreciate the responsiveness. I want to have an integrated approach for all the digital communications. We communicate in a lot more ways than we really realize. The comment section on PeopleSoft, the to-do list content, the website, social media, the emails, we're communicating in a lot of ways, and I want to make sure that those efforts are aligned and all the messages are the same. Strategic initiative to create more social media ambassadors. I want to vet and share scholarship opportunities better. We get those emails all day like, hey, we have this lottery scholarship. Can't you tell your students to apply for it? So I want to do a better job of sharing more scholarship opportunities. Strategic SAP communication. When you consider the population as just a negative, undertone of SAP, and how do I communicate that on social media as a preventive measure, I want to do a better job of that. And our college is going through a website redesign with more responsive, that's more responsive to mobile. Because right now, even when I link to our website, it's not mobilely responsive from social media, so it's not displaying the same way that we're seeing it on our desktop. So that's going to help with social media communications. So, what time we got?
You got 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh, okay. So 10 tips to get started. Number 1, get leadership on board. Align your strategy with your mission, vision, and goals. Set realistic goals. Again, what's viral for financial aid? Like I said, I got 9,000 views and 252 likes. Financial aid went viral. Nobody else can tell me anything, okay? Choose your platforms wisely. I opted not to be on Snapchat. Snapchat is a very live, content-driven type platform, and I don't have the support system to do that. Embrace a conversational tone. Have a plan, but be willing to adjust. Again, you may be planning to talk about something in October. Some may go viral. Let's make that about it. Be willing to adjust. Create and strengthen partnerships to address resource deficiencies. So if we don't have the images, who can we partner with? How can I get to the table with communications? Well, I already understand what drives calls in August. I already understand. So when I go to the table with them and I go with them with somewhat of a calendar of the type of content that I need to produce during each month, then they can work with you for supporting imagery. But don't be afraid to share something that you think is a good idea. They're gonna rely on you heavily because they don't know financial aid. They're like, okay, so what should I post? Again, treat it as an extension of your customer service arm. Just a tidbit about the student who shot that video for me. I found her on Twitter. She was very vocal and unapologetic about her journey from basically homeless to the dean's list. Communications really wasn't engaging with her. I engaged with her, referred her to our financial coaches to help her through her financial emergencies. And she's somewhat been an asset to me. And a lot of great things have happened with her since we identified her on social media. If you start posting and you see the same students are engaging, see how you can kind of leverage them as an ambassador on social media for your digital content. The number 9 tip, don't be intentional about coming back to the table and say, okay, here's what we're seeing is working. Here's what we're seeing isn't working, based on those realistic goals. And don't be afraid to experiment. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor. Got my contact info. Follow Financial Aid Friday series at HCC District on Twitter. That's our Facebook page. I'm also live tweeting during the conference via this hashtag. Feel free to see my commentary. But I'm open to questions. Yes?
You forgot something up there. You forgot to say, I am not for hire.
Look, y'all heard it first. So, go ahead.
I have a question. When it comes down to analytics, are you using Facebook, Google? What combination are you using? Or is there an expectation on the part of your executive team at HCC for you to report that on a monthly, annual, biannual basis?
No, okay, so you had a lot of questions. HCC institutionally doesn't have the tools to, everything is a very segmented effort. So when I look at Facebook analytics, I'm looking at Facebook analytics. When I'm looking at Twitter, I'm looking at Twitter. I created a quarterly report, and what I looked at were trends, what content was engaged in the most during particular months, those anecdotal success stories. What else did I look at? The types, and what type of content was really doing well, so that we can come back to the table. So it was a very overarching report, as opposed to let's look at how many likes we have and let's look at how many comments. Because I really, if my executive director had to take that to someone who's not on social media, I was like, okay, so what's a like mean? I want to know that we're helping students through the process based off of their feedback. So this is the content that they like. These are the anecdotes and the success stories that we have from being on social media. We're shifting behaviors. We're helping students stay in school. We're helping students who are on a brink of leaving HCC, but since they were able to get their question answered quickly on social media, we were able to keep them longer. So that's what I kind of decided to do as far as reporting. I think you have to shape it based on your executives' expectations, but being careful about managing their expectations. Like I said, you go in and say, hey, we're going to hop on social media, these calls are going to go down, and it's going to be great. And when it doesn't happen, and they're looking at you, so why are we spending all this time on this? So that's why I was saying set really realistic goals, so when you look back on what happens, there's a realistic expectation on what the outcome should be and what is a valuable outcome.
Shar-day, are you able to, you say you're looking at trends on your analytics, but are you able to tie it back to, during that time because of what we produced, we had a spike in completions of FAFSAs, or, we had a spike of getting the documentation we needed for verification, or our visits to your financial aid webpage that you can see hits on certain things. Are you able to do that as well?
I want to. So again, I got on social media last November. I needed time to get acclimated to the process. So now we're really just approaching a year on social media. And I think, when we start having those conversations, when I start doing the reporting, then we got to get our other technology in line to understand those direct correlations, or also what else we were doing in addition to social media that may have helped drive that particular outcome. So it's really about not just looking at the data, but having a realistic conversation about how do I interpret this and how do I tie this back to social media. So I know that's not like a direct answer, but
to be continued.
It really is. It really is.
Aside from the obvious format difference between, say, Twitter and Facebook,
right?
When you are providing something, do you generally start with, say, Facebook and then make a Twitter post that cross-references the Facebook, or do you do different content on each channel?
Same content, and I generally try to keep my Facebook posts to 160 characters too. So it'll automatically, so I'm not like, whatever I post on Facebook doesn't automatically feed to Twitter. I think that's what you're asking, so no.
Right,
but I posted
putting the same stuff in both channels.
Same stuff on there, and sometimes I will post longer form content on Facebook. There are a type of different options, but if I can legitimately get it across shorter, I'll use 160 characters on Twitter and on Facebook. But I usually start on Twitter and say, how can I get this complicated, dense content in 160 characters? And then I'll go to Facebook and say, maybe I'll be able to expound upon it, because honestly, Facebook is our larger platform. Anybody else? Well, before I let go, I always like to drop my mic. And I'm available for selfies, so feel free. Thank you.
And one last announcement, make sure that you fill out the evaluation that's going to be mailed to you, and let them know how wonderful Shar-day was.